Welcome, Internet family, to the August 28th episode of Love Chose You. We're going to continue with Sexy Part 2B, and we'll be right back with you after we take a short break and go right into it. Stay with us.
Free clothes, free education, free electronics, free food, free everything. Can you afford free? Get free products for yourself. Give away free products to others. Get paid. It doesn't get any simpler than that. Visit our websites. Your pocket will thank you.
But here's what this viewer said. This viewer says that, Peter, you have a very perverted idea of what sex is. It is not from God's point of view. You are telling men and women to act and dress like prostitutes in their bedroom. Shame on you. How can you possibly believe that this is okay in the bedroom? If you wouldn't dress that way on the street, do you really think it's okay to dress that way in the bedroom? There's more. We're going to deal with that in a second. So let's go to the tape and see what I actually did say. Women, if your husband wants you to dress up, then dress up. Suppose he wants you to dress like, in Victoria's Secrets or in Fredericks or Hollywood or what. There's nothing wrong with that. He sees that all the time. He doesn't have to buy any magazine to see it. He goes online. He goes to the mall. He goes on the train. He sees the Victoria's Secret models all the time. You want him to be thinking about a Victoria's Secret model? If he asks you to put on something, put it on. Men, if your wife asks you to do something, do it. Now, I'm talking about this in the bedroom. I'm not talking about you going out in the street and dressing inappropriately at any time. You do not want to do that. That's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm saying in your bedroom, if he wants you to put something on, go get some stuff that he's never seen before. You know why? Because that's what the mistress does. That's what the prostitute does. God forbid your husband is doing that. But that's what they do. They do whatever is going to please the man that is with them at the time that he's with them. They'll buy whatever. They'll do whatever. So you have to be in a mindset to do that as well. Now, I want you to keep in mind that Delisa, my wife, produces and directs these videos. All right, she produces. She's sitting right here. Now, do you actually think that Delisa, being the producer and director, that we would produce a script that tells women to go and dress like prostitutes? That was not what we were saying. That was not the intent. I want you to listen to this very carefully, what we're saying. What we're telling you to do, women, and men the same thing. But with women, we're addressing this statement to women. Women, what you need to do is act like a woman, but think like a man when it comes to sexual matters. And vice versa for men. Men, you need to act like a man, but think like a woman. The reason is, in terms of sexual matters, if you don't do that, if you think like your gender, you're going to have a very short marriage. Why? Because men and women view sex differently. And you have to be aware of the difference, and you have to cater to the differences of your spouse when it comes to matters of sex. What we're telling you, and we preface this in the video, we said that no one sits down to a table to eat if they're fully satisfied. What does that mean, people? It means you don't sit down to eat a meal if you're satisfied. The whole point was that men, women, you have to make sure that your spouse is satisfied. That was basically exactly what we were saying. We weren't telling you to go and dress like a prostitute. We weren't telling you to do that at all. But we're going to deal with that in a second. But what we were trying to get you to understand is that this goes for husbands and wives. Satisfaction in the marriage, sexual satisfaction, is necessary in order for you to keep your marriage solvent and keep it together. If your spouse is not satisfied and he's not talking to you, if your wife is not satisfied and you're not communicating, then the chances are that they are going to do one of the 5 options. And one of those options is they're going to seek sexual satisfaction somewhere else. It doesn't matter how spiritual your husband or your wife is. When sexual tension is in play, because the marriage relationship is the only relationship where sex is allowed, because it's in play, people We see it in the scriptures. We've seen it with David. We've seen it with so many people in the scriptures, because it becomes a factor when it is not taken care of. If your husband or your wife doesn't have a strong character, then you're going to find, and they don't have self-control, you're going to find that they're going to exercise alternatives that you never thought that they would exercise, and they may not have thought that they would exercise. Let's go back here and deal with another part of this question, because we actually responded to this view and said, we don't know what you're talking about, because there's no place where we told the women to go and dress like prostitutes. So she responded to us and said, at about 2.5 minutes, you tell women to wear your husbands out so he will not want to go elsewhere. This is actually another part of the question, because we've already answered the first part. Now, let's say, for example, my husband wants sex 3 times a day. You are saying in order for him to not to go elsewhere, I should have sex with him 3 times a day. Now, instead of teaching self-control of one's sexual desires of 3 times a day, you're teaching it's okay 3 times a day to wear him out so he won't go elsewhere. Where are you teaching him to control himself rather than fulfill his sexual desires? Christ is all about control in all areas of our lives, not just sexual. But this is one of our appetites that needs to be in control and under the control of Christ. Now, if we go to the tape, we said again, we're addressing this again, to wear your husband out. We said, of course, to make sure that your husband is satisfied, because if he is not satisfied, then the chances are that he will go someplace else in order to fulfill his sexual needs, which God put there. Now, let's deal with this situation of 3 times a day. Now, we're going to share with you women a little secret that you are not going to like, and you may have never heard this before. But after your husband ejaculates, he's pretty much done with you sexually from that point on. That's just the way men are made. His mind is now on something else. Until he's ready to ejaculate again, he's pretty much done sexually. Now, you may not like to hear that, but that is the way men are built. That's the way God made men. It's the way God made us. Their mind is now on something else because they have been satisfied. Most men are not into afterplay. What's afterplay? Afterplay is the intimate, non-sexual encounters that happen after a couple's intimate sexual encounter is over. It's like cuddling and kissing and being courteous and rubbing the foot and rubbing the back and rubbing the neck. It's all of the things that lead up to your next sexual encounter. So afterplay is non-sexual intimacy. And after a man has ejaculated, they're usually not interested in that. All the things that most men don't like to do is what afterplay involves. Now, I happen to like that. I happen to like afterplay. But there are a lot of men who do. But you might be married to most husbands. Most men do not like it. Again, afterplay morphs into foreplay. So that your whole experience with your husband, although sex is not the most important thing, it's way up there. There are other factors that are involved in a marriage. What you need to understand is that if you can get your husband, if your husband's attitude can understand that afterplay leads to foreplay, which leads to other intimate sexual encounters with your wife, then they will be into it big time. As a matter of fact, we have a book, an ebook coming out in the next few months called Afterplay God's Way. And you'll be able to get that right on the site, and you'll be able to understand how your entire relationship and marriage with your wife is a continual, is sexual tension that's there. And the Lord made the marriage relationship so that can be released. And we're going to deal with that, and it's wonderful. We're working on it right now, as a matter of fact. And the book will really help you to understand, how do I relate to my wife, not only sexually, but in all aspects. But if you eliminate sex from the relationship, then it becomes a whole nother relationship. It's not a marriage relationship. So at the same time, what we did was we put the ball squarely in the wife's court. Now, if your husband wants sex 3 times a day and you're okay with that, then it's okay. If he wants it 10 times a day and you're okay with that, then it's okay. You have to mutually agree on what is enough and what is not enough. There are no rules or stipulations in the scripture that says what you can and how many times you can or how many times you can't. But if you mutually agree, then nobody can say it's not abusive. Right? But if you don't agree, right, and he's forcing you, then of course it becomes abusive. But we put the ball squarely in the woman's court because we said, wear your husband out. That means the woman is in control, and that's fine. The woman should be in control of it because, that makes the relationship more solvent. But women, at the same time, we said to you, make sure that you are aware of your husband's sexual cycle. If you are not aware of it, then you're going to find that some things may happen in your marriage that you don't want to happen. And the situation is not out of control. So there are no biblical rules or otherwise to tell you how much you can or you can't. And that was the point that we were trying to make. Again, if you're not okay with it, then it's not okay. But you need to have a conversation with your husband and tell him so. Say, honey, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, 3 times a week. Some people are good with 1 time a week. Some people are, so whatever it is that you agree upon, your husband should be able to identify with that, and you come to an understanding in the marriage. Okay, if that's too much for you, and your husband's, should be fine with that because you've communicated and you know what it is. This is what marriage is all about. Okay, Internet family, we're going to stop right here, and we're going to conclude next week with Sexy Part 2C. Join us then. You don't want to miss it, and remember, love chose you.